Your spirit is stuck, and you might not even realize it. Your mind is too full to hear God's voice. Your prayers feel like they're hitting the ceiling. Your soul is tired, heavy, restless. But today, you're going to uncover one powerful truth that can set everything into motion. You must empty your mind to fill your heart. In this video, you'll discover a sacred teaching, a Zen parable so simple yet so life-altering, it could completely shift your spiritual journey. If your life feels cluttered, noisy, or disconnected from divine peace, this is the answer you've been searching for. And listen, this isn't just a story. This is a wake-up call from heaven itself. But you must stay with me until the end to receive the full revelation. And before we dive in, let me gently ask you something. Are you subscribed to this channel? Many who watch these videos aren't, but they keep coming back because they feel something shift in their soul. Don't risk missing the next word God might be speaking to your heart. Hit that subscribe button now, and let's begin this journey of healing, clarity, and transformation. In the stillness of early morning, a gentle breeze carried the scent of jasmine through the garden, where a Zen master waited with the patience of eternity itself. A professor approached, driven by a restless longing for wisdom. His heart brimmed with curiosity, yet his mind overflowed with theories, achievements, and pride. The master welcomed him with grace, offering no words, only a pot of tea and 2 porcelain cups. Slowly, deliberately, he poured the steaming tea into the visitor's cup. As the liquid rose to the brim, the professor watched, puzzled. But the master continued pouring, and the tea spilled over, soaking the table. "Why do you keep pouring?" the professor exclaimed. The master looked into his eyes and said with quiet strength, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and assumptions. How can I show you truth unless you first empty your cup?" In that sacred moment, time stood still. The air thickened with revelation. This wasn't just about tea, it was about faith, about surrender, about creating space within the soul for the divine to pour in. The professor had come seeking answers, but what he received was a mirror, and the mirror reflected his brokenness, his need for humility, and the invitation to let go. The master's silence said more than 1,000 sermons. When the mind is too full, there's no room for light, wisdom, or presence to enter. And so the journey begins not by adding but by releasing. As the tea dripped slowly from the edge of the cup onto the wooden table, the professor finally grasped the metaphor that had been unfolding before him. The master's act wasn't a mistake, it was a message. We live much of life like that cup, filled to the brim with noise, ambition, opinions, and pain. And in such fullness, we become incapable of receiving anything new. Faith cannot take root in soil already overgrown with weeds. Grace cannot enter a heart already hardened by pride. This image of the overflowing cup becomes a mirror to our everyday lives. We carry so much, strive so hard, and yet find so little peace. The master teaches that if we desire clarity, we must first make room for it. Just as a cup must be emptied to be filled with fresh tea, the soul must be emptied of ego, fear, and control to receive divine guidance. The metaphor is not simply poetic, it is a practical truth. When we pray, are we truly listening, or are we just reciting? When we seek healing, have we made space for the Spirit to move? Jesus often retreated into silence not to escape, but to remain open to the Father's will. He emptied himself continually, Philippians 2:7. We too must learn this sacred art, to sit, to breathe, to let go. The fullness we chase often leads to emptiness, but true transformation begins when we learn to become empty, so that the divine may overflow within us. Emptiness is not a void of weakness, it is the sacred soil of readiness. The Zen master's lesson reveals a profound paradox. When we are empty, we are full of possibility. To be full of opinions is to be closed off, but to be empty is to be receptive to truth, to calling, to miracle. Jesus said in Matthew 5:3, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." This poverty is not financial but spiritual emptiness, a holy openness. When one's hands are clenched tightly around certainty, there is no room to receive grace. But when hands are open in surrender, blessings can be placed within. The professor had come seeking knowledge, but the master offered wisdom, the kind that cannot be stored in books, only in the open fields of the soul. In our journey through life, we often demand answers, clarity, outcomes. But the Spirit whispers not to the busy mind, but to the still heart. When Moses approached the burning bush, he first had to remove his sandals, an act of reverence and emptiness. Exodus 3:5. Likewise, when we approach God's presence, we must leave behind our assumptions, our demands, even our pride. True awakening begins with humility, and humility begins with the courage to say, "I do not know." It is then that healing, guidance, and divine presence can begin to pour in. Clarity is often mistaken for certainty, but true clarity flows from non-judgment. The Zen parable reminds us that the greatest obstacle to wisdom is not ignorance, it's assumption. Most people move through life labeling everything, good, bad, fair, unfair. But judgment is a wall that keeps the Spirit from entering. In John 7:24, Jesus said, "Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly." And often, the most correct judgment is not to judge at all. To embrace a moment without clinging to it, to let a person be without assigning them a role. This is divine sight. Like clouds drifting across a still lake, thoughts and emotions can come and go. But when the surface is not stirred by judgment, the light of God reflects clearly. The professor, had he arrived with stillness instead of superiority, might have seen the master's silence not as arrogance, but as invitation. When we release judgment, peace follows. Forgiveness becomes possible. Healing flows more freely. A mother forgiving a wayward child. A friend offering mercy instead of bitterness. These are not just kind acts. They are reflections of God's own heart. Judgment limits us to our own perception, but faith opens us to truth greater than our understanding. And when we stop labeling what happens, we begin receiving it. In that posture of openness, the soul becomes a vessel for transformation and grace. The ultimate lesson of this sacred story is that when you empty your mind, you make room to fill your heart. In a world obsessed with knowing more, owning more, proving more, we are being invited to release, to surrender our grip on needing control, to make space for the Spirit to dwell richly within us. An empty mind is not blank, it is full of readiness. A full heart is not cluttered, it is anchored in love, patience, and presence. When you cease trying to be everything, you become exactly who God created you to be. When you let go of the need to understand every step, you find yourself walking in trust. The professor came seeking information. He left with awakening, and so must we. When we sit in stillness, when we unclench the fists of fear, when we lay our brokenness before the Lord in prayer, we create the space where miracles happen. The cup that once overflowed with ego is now ready to receive eternity. The mind once filled with anxiety is now a sanctuary for peace, and the life once driven by striving now flows in the current of divine purpose. This is not theory, it is the path. The journey begins every time you choose kindness over certainty, light over control, forgiveness over pride. So empty your cup, beloved soul, and let the blessing pour in. So now I ask you, what's filling your cup? Is it pride, fear, noise, or space for God's presence? Let me know in the comments how this message spoke to your soul. I read every response, and your story might help someone else on their journey too. And if this video brought light, peace, or clarity to your spirit, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a word that could transform your life. Before you go, make sure to watch the next video that's appearing on your screen right now. It holds another divine key just waiting to be unlocked in your life. Stay blessed, stay open, and I'll see you in the next one.